Hi everyone. This is the guest speaker for we are in October. Sorry, I'm not with it at all. The weather's changing and I'm not keeping up with it. And today's guest speaker is Sandra Clarke, and she's linked in with Usana. So welcome. You are one of the members as well, so that's even better. So you should have seen some of her stuff and her chatting in the membership. So to get it going, will you let me know how you started with Usana?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I came across Usana in 1999 in Australia. So I'd lived in London and worked in the corporate, in the branding industry for years, wanted to get out of that or wanted to get away for a while, ended up in Australia and knew I didn't want to go back to London in the same way of life. So as I was working my way around Australia, I was looking out for ideas, not necessarily looking for ideas there, but looking for inspiration to know what I do when I come back. And not long before the end of my year came up, I met some people in Queensland and they were selling Usana. And I went along and listened to that. And on the one hand was very, very skeptical because of this whole idea of, the home party networks and all of that. And this was all pre-internet, pre-email. So, it was all sort of audio cassettes and brochures and stuff. And I was very skeptical, but my marketing brain wasn't impressed. However, what attracted me, what made me a customer at the time was actually that I very much believed in prevention rather than cure. And that came from I think actually from the fact that my mother had breast cancer when I was 13, right, at the same time as her mother had stomach cancers. And my mother survived. She's still here. She's 80 this year. Actually, a week ago, she turned 80.
Oh, wow.
So, which is lovely. And she's still very well, touch wood. Her mother did die after 14 years of battling with her cancers. But it made my mother reevaluate her life, not surprisingly. And she started doing a little bit of, she discovered rescue remedies and mindset and things that she would have just palmed off as nonsense before. And I suspect in a teenage brain, those kind of things log somewhere. And throughout my 20s in London, I got more and more involved with spiritual development or sort of spiritual learning, an alternative way of looking at yourself and your health. So the leap to doing something permanently to ensure your immune system is as strong as it can be wasn't that far by the time I got there. I didn't think, well, my diet wasn't that good. So to me, it also made sense for me that there was a gap between what I was getting from my food to what I should have. Yeah. So I started taking them, came back to the UK, and actually was a customer for years because I point blank refused to get involved with the business. And it was many years later, after my second child was born and I was constantly tired and overworked and really struggling to juggle my work and the children, that I thought something needed to change. And the woman I'd met in Australia was over in the UK by chance, and she took me out for a coffee. And over the years, she'd kept ringing me. There was probably 6 years from when I first started taking Usana at that point. And she took me, and in the time she'd always message me and say, oh, I've got an offer for you. And oh, come on, I want you to join my team and let's do this. And I kept saying, no, this isn't for me. I'm busy and I'm not interested. And I remember sitting in the coffee house with her and going, for goodness sake, I don't want to be doing this. And she says, well, what do you want to be doing? And I said, well, I don't want to sell products. I want to train people. And she said, well, that's why I want you in my team. So that's when I actually stopped coming up with what I can't do and started listening to what I could do. And that's how I then got involved with the business. And this is now, well, Maxine's 14 in January. So it's about 13 years I've been in the business. And it certainly revolutionized our lives while the kids were little. I mean, I couldn't have done the early years with them in the primary school with them if I hadn't been in the business. So I'm very grateful to it.
Brilliant. So what do you feel the benefits are from Usana? And what is Usana?
Sorry?
let's explain a bit more what Usana is, and then
Yes,
the
I was just thinking.
benefits.
So,
Yeah, we've jumped a bit.
well, they go together,
Yeah.
actually. And if it's all right, I'll do the benefits through my personal stories, sort of my experience with it, because I think it's often better to just do a genuine example rather than I'll do a bit of theory. But so Usana are a supplement manufacturer, so they manufacture their own supplements to their own formulation. They've now been going over 25 years. It'll be coming. It can't be far off 30 years now.
Okay.
So we need to actually take a step back to when they started. So we're saying it was, what am I saying? It was in the early 90s. Does that sound about right? Something like that. Yeah, sort of late 80s, early 90s, that the founder, Dr. Wen, started exploring supplementation and vitamins. And that came from his personal story. So he had run a pharmaceutical research lab. He developed 80% pretty much of all the viral test kits that are now available on the market were developed because on the basis of his initial one, that was for glandular fever. Because before he did those, you couldn't test for viruses. You could only test for bacteria. So that was quite a revolution, and he actually won an outstanding sciences award for it. And that was his background. So he was always in the sort of health industry.
Yeah.
But he himself was getting ill. And the reason his lab was so successful is that they did everything on human cell cultures. They never did anything on animals. You know, he had fairly high standards even back then in terms of animal welfare and sort of ethics and morals. And when he was getting run down, somebody gave him some vitamins and said, you better take some, you're not looking too good. And he took them into the lab and analyzed them out of interest because he was, a scientist wanting to know what he was taking. And he said, if I was giving that to my cells in the lab, they wouldn't survive a day. How is a human being supposed to survive on that? Because what actually had made him so special and unique in his field was that the way he looked after the human cells in the lab was that he fed them a very finely balanced of vitamins and minerals. And he'd spent decades fine-tuning how to keep the cells healthy. So what he managed and what he learned was that human cells, obviously in a sterile lab environment, when fed the perfect diet, as in the right balance of vitamins and minerals to each other, in the right quantities, will live forever and will never fall ill. And so when he looked at those vitamin supplements that were being sold to people, he said, we can do better than that. And that is essentially the premise of Usana. So he started putting his own formula together. Obviously, we're not cells in a lab. We all get that. But it was the idea of, you start with the very best or the optimum balance of nutrients. And he talked about antioxidants and free radicals and stuff. And of course, 30 years ago or 25 years ago, even, people just thought he was a lunatic. And I remember mentioning free radicals and antioxidants to someone when I first heard of them, and they looked at me as if I'd come from Mars. It was quite revolutionary in its day. Now, obviously, nowadays, it's in everything. We all know the importance of them. So things have moved on. And they have stuck to their core principle of multivitamins and minerals, but they have developed new technology behind it to continuously improve how the body absorbs it. Right. So that's and that is also what makes them unique, or why them, is their manufacturing, because they do it all in-house. They have set the highest standards, and they do everything to a degree of purity that is rare. It's no longer unique, which it was at one point. There are others who followed suit, but quite the level that they're at is, to give you an idea, in America, there's an organization called, is it NSA? And I'm not thinking of the National Security Agency. It's another, it's a similar acronym, but they test pharmaceutical manufacturing labs. Right. Because if you think about medical drugs, so if you're taking an aspirin, and if it was produced by the same laws that we apply to vitamins, you would get 30 milligram in one tablet, 120 in the next. It would fluctuate completely. And you also wouldn't have to have the tablet tested whether and how fast it dissolves. Now, obviously, when you're taking a medical drug, that isn't possible. You have to guarantee that each tablet has the exact quantity and that it dissolves within 30 minutes, or certainly sort of within a certain time frame, because otherwise they're pointless. And Usana were the first to translate that those standards to their lab for supplements. And this agency that certifies all these labs have the right to walk into any of the labs that work under their standards without a moment's notice. So they come in cold, they don't even give you 24 hours or anything, to check that you're really constantly working to those standards. And the head scientist at Usana once told us the story that in a year, they were in about 5 or 6 times. And Usana were getting a bit worried, going, why do they keep coming in? What are we doing wrong? Why do they keep checking up on us? So they finally asked. And the guy said, oh, actually, no, we just bring all our new recruits here because you are our benchmark for how it should be done properly. So they're no longer the only ones, but they are up there. They just, their emphasis is always quality. So
Right.
everything they do, every ingredient they source, every standard they will, and they will, it's sort of scientific quality. So they will always make, it's not just because they think so, they like the sound of it. They do their research, and they're constantly researching and studying to make sure that they have top quality. And I just think if we're going to spend money on putting anything in our bodies, apart from the obvious in terms of food, I want to make sure I put in the best and not just, you know, anything just because it's there.
Yeah, because it's a bit pointless, isn't it, to be eating well and healthy and trying to get some organic stuff or growing our own stuff, and then picking up a tablet that's full of rubbish, isn't it? So
or just it might not even be full of rubbish, but it might just not do anything. It might just not dissolve in you and actually never deliver anything. And I think, well, you know, why even spend a fiver on that, you know?
Yeah. Oh dear. So we've got the, so we were saying about the benefits.
Oh yes, yeah. So for me, so if I just tell you what happened to me, because because I am quite skeptical and quite a rebel, and so when I'm told something is good for me, I don't automatically do it, which Hayley knows already because she knows me. So I came back from Australia, and as I said, I was taking the supplements, and then I lived on my own, and after everything in Australia, I was living really healthily. So I ate really well, you know, very pure diet, exercised a lot, meditated a lot. I had a very balanced lifestyle, and slept incredibly well, the whole thing. And after a few months, I thought, this is silly. Why am I spending money on this stuff? You know, we're back to sort of why I throw money out the door. I live so healthily now, you know, my diet isn't as bad as it used to be. I don't need this anymore. And so I stopped taking them. And what was really interesting, because I was early 30s, I really was very fit and healthy, and I was really at my very best sort of in my whole life. And even so, there were a few small things I'd suddenly realized that had stopped over the months of taking them that I hadn't even realized. So it was like how itchy my head gets, or quite how deeply I slept, my nails. It was, you know, it was the quality of my hair. It was small things, but I suddenly realized that there had always been little issues, not stuff where you'd say you're not well, but, oh, I'm the kind of person whose nails break a lot kind of thing, that had disappeared and that were coming back. So I sort of thought, that's interesting. There might be more to this than I gave it credit for. Started taking it again, and then realized that I always had at least 3, normally 4 colds a year. Never the flu, but really bad colds. All through my 20s and my 30s, even in Australia, it was like every season I'd get the flu once, or the cold once, sorry. And I hadn't had any for once I went back on them, I noticed 2 or 3 years later that I hadn't had that once.
Oh, right.
Now then I had kids, and that obviously didn't quite maintain. My diet didn't stay as well. Well, I got married for one thing, so I blame my husband.
Let's blame him for everything.
Absolutely, that's what they're there for. But yeah, my diet was no longer quite as healthy. Then I had kids, life got more stressful. And there were a few, I won't go into every detail, but there were a few more occasions where I questioned whether they were the right thing for me to take. And I stopped, or I changed what I did. And every time, and I can now say throughout life, there are probably 3, 4 occasions where I've done this over those longest, nearly 20 years. And every time I felt worse without them than on them. So the last one that was a fun one. Sort of, I started taking the one for the menopause, for the female hormone system, before I had menopause, before I was menopausal, because I thought, well, build it up early. And then again, stopped thinking, well, I don't need it yet. I'm not at all menopausal. And the minute I stopped, I suddenly noticed the first sort of hot flushes and stuff. So I went back on it, you know. So that it's been consistently that it just, every time I've noticed it, it just seems to work.
Okay. And the menopausal one, does it copes with all those things like the hot flashes and?
I would be lying if I said I had none. It has made a huge difference, definitely. It's not doing it on its own for me anymore. Now, that is partly I'm currently not sleeping enough. That won't help.
Yeah.
You know, as you know, I'm improving my diet, but it's not 100%, so that will have an impact. And I think, I know my mother had very, very severe symptoms to the point that she gave in and had HRT. My grandmother had very severe symptoms, so I think I'm from a line of women that get very menopausal.
Yeah.
So I get sort of, what is it, sort of 2 or 3 hot flushes a day at the moment.
Right.
And it's not stopping that. I'm not prepared to try it, but based on previous experience, I'm pretty certain that if I wasn't taking it, it'd be way worse. And those are the only symptoms I've got. I can concentrate. You know, I don't have any particular mood swings, no more than usual. You know, so it's really just the hot flushes. And I'm convinced if I didn't have it, it'd be worse. But I'm going to do other alternative stuff on top. But I think somebody who doesn't get severe menopause, it'd be more than enough.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So, but if it's help controlling yours to not be as bad, that's always a benefit.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
and
not everything can be taken away, can it? Yeah. You know, we still have to go through the change.
Exactly. And also, it's not, supplements are not a miracle cure. They don't fix and cure anything. That, you know, it's like a good diet alone, or you know, a healthy lifestyle alone doesn't fix everything. It does an awful lot.
Yes.
But it, like you say, certain things we just have to go through, and there will be symptoms and things attached. So
yeah, it's a bit like what I talk about a lot in the membership and any of my coaching and tips and that. It's about having a toolbox, isn't it? It's not just one thing. It's not just the tablets. It's not just eating perfectly or just exercising or just meditating. The Robert Holden that I trained with had a great analysis that if you look at the car, you know, if one thing's not working, if it can knock everything else out.
Yeah.
But when we sort of replace it, it's not just replacing that one thing, you know, we're having to have a few different things that we dip in and out of sometimes. You know, we still have to always check that the oil needs doing. We still have to, you know, it's a maintenance thing, and having all these different things. And sometimes, like you said, you need the menopause tablets, and you need to do some other stuff and check your diet with your sugar and anything else that's going on, and then you have to do some more exercise to help with something else. You know, it's about a combination, isn't it?
Well, to use your car analogy, the brake pads are going to get worn down. No matter how much you look after them, sooner or later they're going to get worn down, and you need to replace them. You know, and it's kind of, you know, I'm not saying we'll sort of replace ourselves, but it's that same principle. Things still get worn down, and the wear and tear shows, you know, no matter how carefully we look after it.
Unless we're going to sit up a mountain with the monks.
Yes, that is true. Yes.
You know,
not with kids and dogs and husbands in the house. It doesn't work.
Sometimes we want to. But yes, I mean, life still goes on, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And with age as well, things change, don't they? You know, so all these
there are stresses. I mean, the thing that the other aspect to Usana that I like so much is their genuineness, but with that comes their general education. So I've learned so much about healthy lifestyle on all levels from them, not just, you know, take supplements and it's all okay. And one of the things they keep stressing, the impact of stress on how our body functions is just phenomenal. And you know, it is pretty much the root of all evil, almost. And of course, at the moment, and well, generally at our age, and you know, with family, and whether it's the parents or the kids or whatever we've got going on, or siblings or friends, there are stresses when we worry about them and want to look after them. And money and work, if no matter how well equipped we are, there are times when it stresses us.
Yeah.
You know, and in the current situation over the last 6 months, I mean, you know what I've said before, I'm very grateful. I've been incredibly lucky with the family I've got and everything, but it's stressful for people, you know, and that has a knock-on effect on our health.
Yeah, definitely. That actually leads us into the next question, because I was going to say, with winter coming, well, for some of us, I know for Kerry, it's not her. She's getting rid of her winter and going into her summer, but
lucky you.
We're not talking to her.
No, we'll just come and crash.
Yeah. It's a shame that there's a complete lockdown and we can't fly, or we will be over in Argentina living with Kerry. But yeah, generally for a lot of us, the winter's come in, things are changing, which our health changes, like you said, colds and everything. But also with a lot of the whole COVID thing, and there's a lot of talk, there is around our area of, we're on a medium to high risk and we're on the verge of, you know, could shut down. It's not obviously happening yet, but there's still talk about it. So there's a lot of panic of having to go back into that, and stresses, and how's that going to cope with life, work, monies. So do you have any tips for us that
yeah, I suspect stuff probably all of us know already, but it's probably worth well, I have to remind myself regularly, but it's the fact that there is no one miracle cure. So we all really need to think about our diet. And I realize this is, you know, especially in countries like England, harder than, say, in Bermuda or Argentina or other countries, because our choice in the winter months in terms of fresh, locally grown vegetables and fruit is far more limited.
Yeah.
But even so, wherever possible, reduce the processed foods, increase the green leafy vegetables, you know, have more of those and less of the other sort of the root vegetables and the fruit. Again, I know this is difficult in the UK, but to some degree, our bodies are also built to fit our climate. So, you know, we can cope with that bit more root, or, you know, get your sugar hit and your comfort food from the root vegetables, and not necessarily from the chocolates and the biscuits, if you manage it.
Yeah.
But, you know, your body's going to go into a bit of adjust to the climate. Allow yourself the quieter evenings, more rest time, more sleep. That's okay. I don't know how many of you have done this, and I don't know about you, Hayley, but I was told this years ago, and it's very true. I can get by on about 4 hours sleep in the summer, maybe 5 hours, because of the light.
Yeah.
Whereas in the winter, I feel like I need 14 hours every night.
Yeah.
And I know we don't quite do that, but it's, go with it. You know, sleep short in the summer and don't worry about it. But in the winter, give yourself the longer times and the rest time, and let your body just rest a bit. But within that, exercise in a way that suits you and that's appropriate. So for many of us, you know, yoga at home or in a class is perfect this time of year. I quite like, I've got a dog I can't let off the lead, so I go running with him, and it's a social thing for me because I go in a group, and I'm a rubbish runner. I am slow, I don't go far, but I feel really good. And I actually, he can't run, the dog can't run in the summer, it's too hot for him. I enjoy it, but go with what's right for you. You know, maybe you enjoy going swimming, but a bit of exercise, just to give yourself that, to get out a bit, and where you can still pick up the sunshine and the fresh air. Vitamin D, as we know, is essential, and I know we struggle with that in the winter, but if you can go out for walks, you know, bike rides, whatever's right for you, to get a bit of fresh air and get a bit of sunlight, or even just daylight, makes so much difference. Sleep, good sleep, you know, so it's the same old, try to get off the electronic devices, certainly not in the bedroom, but ideally a couple of hours before bed if you can. Stop eating a couple of hours before you go to sleep, so your body has digested by the time you go to sleep. You know, try and, if you don't find sleeping easy, 5-10 minute meditation in bed. I know a very good lady who does excellent meditation recordings, but they really help. I mean, my girls love Hayley's recordings. I love them. They, you know, they make a difference. They really help us. So anything to help you. And for those of you, I don't know if you work with Hayley, she will have told you, but even if you're the kind of person that wakes up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, so you fall asleep easily, but then wake up with mind going in circles, I discovered that provided I do a meditation before I go to sleep, I don't wake up with that stress in the brain. So it really makes a difference. And with that, work on your mindset, a positive, calm mindset. As we just said, stress comes our way. We can never get away from it, but we can manage it. It's that same old thing. It's not about what happens to you, it's how you respond to it. And I know Haley posts things like that all the time, but it's true. It's managing our responses. And then, yes, add supplements to all of that, and we, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, but actually world over, we don't get enough from our foods. There just no longer is enough in the soil, even with organic foods. So adding good all-round supplementation to your diet does, well, as I said earlier, really makes that difference.
Okay. So do you want to go over some of the packages that they do?
Okay.
It's very different, isn't it, than vitamins that you can buy in the supermarket or health food shop. It's not individual, is it?
That's right.
Different things. Would you like to explain how that works?
So essentially, their core product, which I haven't got in a bottle, but it's well, let me explain the core product and then I'll show you a few just so you get a picture of what they look like. The core product is a multivitamin and mineral, and that's the one they recommend that everybody should have over and above a healthy diet. So if you're perfectly healthy and you've got really balanced life, you should have that. And then ideally also the one that I do have here, a fish oil. Because those are kind of the core ones to keep us going. The whole principle, as Haley mentioned, is they don't provide the B vitamins or the zinc or the echinacea on its own. Their logic is that, to use a simple example, why, for example, not just vitamin C, if you take a balloon and it's leaking air from one end because, it's got a hole, you can keep pumping air in as much as you like, it's going to keep leaking it. What you need to do is put on the glue and the little patch to block the hole, then you can pump more air in and then it'll stay in. That's kind of our deficiencies. Part of it is not getting enough, but part of it is that our cells aren't in the right balance. So unless we give the cells the balance, they won't absorb what they need. That's it in simplest terms. So for example, the fish oil has vitamin D with it. And there's a magnesium calcium product, which is amazing. And anybody with cramps, by the way, muscle cramps, magnesium is key for that. Really helps, even migraine kind of cramps. But they've got the vitamin K with it. So they're constantly combining those. But just to give you an idea, just so you know what the tablets look like. So I because I'm lazy, I buy myself this sort of health pack because I actually get what I take ready, but they tailor it to you. Well, you can buy a ready-made one, but you can also tailor it to you. So you get all the supplements you want for the morning and the evening with a little message made up for you, which I love because, like I say, I'm lazy. And that has, at the moment, quite a lot in. So I vary what I put in depending on winter, summer, being menopausal, because I'm working hard at the moment. I've added in more than the running. I'm still overweight. I'm working on that with Haley, and she's been hugely helpful, and it's making a difference. But I'm conscious that I need to sort of do extra things to balance out my flaws, if you like. So that there's a way you can do that, or you can just buy them individually. But it's generally a good multivitamin, a fish oil, tend to be the ones that for healthy people are more than enough. And then they have other ones that are tailored. So you've got a joint one. If people who are leaning towards arthritis, they've got one for the cardiovascular system, for those of us who either have heart disease in the family or are a bit worried about that. There's a new one, which I'm just trialing, so I can't vouch for it yet, but see if I can show you this. It's a stress relief. They just started doing a mood range, which I'm quite excited by, because
brilliant.
As we've already, we all need that. So there's that. There's a mood, like aroma stick that they've now started doing for sort of calming essence thing that my 14-year-old is trialing out, and she's loving it. She because she can get herself into quite a state, so she loves things like that, and she's got it on her in school, so that if anything happens, she just rubs it on her wrist. So that's another one we're trying at the moment. So and for those that are not in Europe, but sort of US-related countries like the Caribbean and stuff, they do an amazing melatonin product for rest, for nighttime sleep. that I keep bringing over when I can, because it's just phenomenal. And it, again, the youngest one struggled sleeping for a while, mental issues, as in she was getting herself wound up, and she would use it. And to be honest with her, I don't know whether it's placebo, because she should be producing enough melatonin, but it's a safe way of helping her sleep, and she sleeps like a dream on it, and wakes up rested, which is the other big one.
Yeah.
So that's kind
That's
of
a bonus for a teenager.
yeah, well, it's wearing off now that, you know, that worked more when she was 10, 11. Now that she's going into full-on teenage mode, it doesn't matter how well rested she is, we still get the teenage.
I'm not awake. It's not 1 o'clock yet.
Exactly, you know. Yeah, but I think, does that give enough of a flavour?
Yes. You also said there's a section you were telling me about, Ask the Scientist.
Oh, yes. Yeah, one of my favourite bits. So Usana have employed, it's another reason I trust them, they've employed, I think they've got over 70 scientists now, and about 30 of them are PhDs, who are all real specialists and experts in the nutritional field. And they are constantly working, not just on their own products, but also on researching the subject and looking at what else is being done the world over. So they're really staying on top of all the latest developments.
Okay.
And they have their own website called askthescientists.com. And there's a lot of information freely available to everyone. Articles on bone health, mood enhancement, you know, how to eat healthy, good tips on all sorts of exercise, you know, how to exercise right, all kinds of stuff. And that's freely available. And they also, obviously, they link it back to the Usana product, but there's a lot of useful information in there, even if you're not interested in the product. And I love that site, because you can find just about anything. And if anybody had a particular question, by all means, let me know, because as an associate, I can then ask them questions and I get more specific answers back.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm happy to share that link in the group.
Yeah, we can put that in under the video.
Yeah, happy to.
We can also put your link in, or thing to the Usana site, so people can have a look. And like they said, if they've got any questions, they can contact you then, can't they?
Yeah. Just for your, was it Carrie in Argentina?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they're not available in Argentina at the moment, so that would need someone from the UK or the US or someone to send it on to you if you were interested.
Okay.
But everybody else can just go online and order them and get them sent directly to their home.
Oh, brilliant. That's fantastic. So is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think
the basic ones, the basic ones that you quite recommend. You've got, obviously, the new one that you're trying out is the stress relief.
Stress relief, yeah.
And then you've got your combination pack one, isn't it?
Yeah, the My Health, there's the My Health Pack, or the Health Pack, which is a ready-made combination. The core one I recommended is called Cell Essentials. Okay. So that comes in 2 bottles, and that is the sort of the basic one that, you know, that is the one I started off with when I said I noticed the slight difference in the early days, because that's all I took back then, obviously.
Okay, and then the rest of them are quite easy, like it's for joints or for things that
yeah, and they explain, it's all explained on the website. But I'm also just to sort of say that my attitude and my philosophy with all of it is, like I said, one of the things I like about Usana is how genuine they are, and they're genuinely looking to help people be healthier. And I've very much aligned myself with them for that reason as well. So I'm always available, free of charge, to answer some questions, guide people, advise you, if you're interested.
Yeah,
you know, that's just part of the service. So
okay, that's brilliant. So well, thank you for that. That's been really interesting.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me.
Even that I've known about it for quite a few years, as long as you have. There was a bit more that I didn't quite understand.
Yeah.
So that was really good, and I'm really, really pleased that they've moved into the you know, stress and things.
Yeah,
definitely. I'd love to hear your feedback on it with it, and
I will do.
We'll definitely put some links up for that one, because I know that's
yes, yeah, we'll do.
because every time things like that, we sometimes just need to bring in and boost ourselves when things are just getting a bit too much.
Yeah.
They just help, I think, and it just, like you said, helps balance us out. So it doesn't mean we have to be on it forever. It's
No,
just
exactly.
take at certain points. So
Yeah.
really, really keen on looking into that one. So
Well, I've only been taking it a few days now, and I'm actually trialing something new at the moment, and taking all the antioxidants, the vitamins in the morning and the minerals in the evening, where I can adjust it, because there's a school of thought that minerals are better at nighttime while you're so I'm taking the stress relief in the morning. So yeah, no, I'll keep you posted. I mean, at the moment, I have way too much to do, and I'm not feeling anywhere near as stressed as I probably should be to meet my deadlines. So
maybe it's working
so,
through that.
exactly. Might well be. But no, I'll keep you posted.
No, that'd be great. Yeah, and let us know in the group as well how you're getting on
Yeah,
with it. Please
yeah,
do, so everyone
definitely.
can hear about it. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and I will download this and send it into the membership. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.